You must put yourself out there. Hi, this is Laura and Robert here at the Final Phoenix podcast, and we're talking about the importance of putting yourself out there and sharing your experiences and your knowledge with the world. So, Robert's here to join me in this conversation, um, and we're going to share some personal stories and some tips for you to put yourself out there and get over some of that fear of sharing. So, hi, Robert. Why don't you introduce yourself and
Hi, everybody. Robert here. I like this topic a lot because for a lot of reasons. But one is that if you really kind of do a soul search, a lot of us, especially if you really care. In fact, I'm not going to say this for everybody, but I know a lot of the people I talk to, if they really, really care about what they do, they want to put the information out there, but they're also worried about putting the information out there. I don't know if it's what other people will say, but this is a big issue. I faced it myself, putting, I through my whole career, even though I'm a teacher, I get in front of people, but to get in front of people that weren't my students, I had all sorts of issues with this. And I never really sat down and looked at it and realized how bad this was actually holding me back. I just would say things like, "Oh, I don't like doing that, so I'm not going to." And then that would stop me from, getting the word out. So I think this is a great topic today. I really like this topic.
yeah, and I think we've all gone through this to some extent, especially in the beginning. And I wanted to just briefly share a story that I shared in my newsletter that I sent out today. And that was a student who attended the 90-day soulpreneur intensive with six other people. Well, there were six of us total, between five and six on any given lesson. And she realized that she was trying to put herself out into the world, trying to offer her products and her services, but she was having a hard time doing that just in a small group of five to six people. And once she realized that, she made a different decision to participate more, to put herself out there, to get feedback on her programs, and to really become a part of something bigger. And that helped her grow. So I love that story because she's right. Like, how can we be the change in the world if we can't trust what we're putting out in a small group of people? So so we wanted to talk, Robert and I wanted to talk about some of the common fears, that we go through, like fear of judgment, fear of failure. That's just a couple of them. Robert, what do you want to say about those fears that we kind of regularly go through just as human beings, and maybe anything else you can touch upon that topic.
Yeah, I think I want to actually, for a second, I want to circle back around to that story because coming from the outside of that, you had a group of people that had been working, with each other for quite a long time, and you'd given them from how I understand it, you'd given them an assignment that was basically they were supposed to just do a little video or something for the group, and you shared with me some of the things they were saying about it, and some of them were just terrified to do that in a group that I heard them talk, that you guys all know each other, you trust each other, you guys were great together, and all of a sudden all this stuff came out. But what really struck me is one of the students of yours, you shared with me how much fear they had, and then you showed me the video that they did, and I thought the video was brilliant. I was like going, wow, I'm not even that target market. The target market was females, and that had gone through something, and I'm a male that didn't go through that, and I'm like going, I want her product. And then you shared with me how insecure she was and everything, and I did not see that in the video at all. I didn't see it at all. So I kind of think, and I use that to reflect on some of the things I haven't done because of that same fear. And here I am ready to go buy her product. And I'm not even fitting into it because I thought she did a brilliant job. And I'm thinking, wow, how many times have I decided not to do something simply because I think other crazy people that have nothing to do with my life will say something bad about me. Maybe they'll make fun of my hair. I don't know. I don't know what goes through the minds. So this is kind of good because when I reflect back, which is what I do, is I reflect back to my practical experience in the martial art business. It's what I know. There's been a lot of times that I have stopped or not done something that would promote and help people out because I had to put myself out there, and deep down there was some sort of fear of not getting it perfect. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. It helps me out a lot in training, but it destroys me in business because I think
Yeah.
nothing is ever perfect. In the art, you never reach perfection, and you kind of know that, but you strive for it. But in business, sometimes you want to help people out. You just got to get out there.
Which
And so
is
I think people fight. I think they fight that even when they're good. And I would love to have some ability to know what's going on when that critical voice comes in.
Yeah, and one of the things that you said is that we judge our own work, which is really funny because we're always trying to say, "Oh, here's like my favorite videos that I put out there usually don't do as well as I think they will. And the videos that I don't really like of myself, of anything to do with anything, they perform really well. So I learned early on that I can't be the judge of what I put out there. It's my job to put stuff out there and then humanity responds in the way that they want to respond because I can't possibly know what's going to do well. So that's the first thing that I just want to encourage people to create because you can't know. We think we know, but we don't. The second thing is that, you mentioned martial arts and how that really helps you in creating, right? Like as an artist, as a martial artist, you're creating and you're applying, but we're also artists in our business too, right? So that perfection that we try to hold a standard to when we apply it to the understanding that we're creating as an artist, no matter what we're doing, I feel like it can fall away a little bit, right? Because business is an art. We are all artists. So I just wanted to highlight that because we're creating products, we're creating programs, and perfection is just this elusive idea that we can never align with, right? So I just try to dismiss any ideas of perfection. And I think you actually gave me some of the best advice, which was just do 80%, right? Like if I want to hold myself to a standard, let it be 80%. And if I want to circle back around and, edit something or redo something to make it feel better for me, then I could reach to a higher percentage. But um just making something feel good enough for me to put out there and feel good about what I'm putting out there, period, is what's most important for me. So that I'm sharing something, that I believe in that feels aligned with me.
Well, when it comes down to like, being a perfectionist or whatever words you want to use, I've spent most of my life doing martial arts. And there's a standard there that I have, my own standards. I don't know why I would dream to put those standards on something that I'm not a master of. I mean, I have an art for 35 years I've done. I have very high standards when I do a movement, when I teach, what I expect. Well, I haven't spent 35 years on social media. I haven't spent 35 years talking on video. Why would I think that expertise should carry over to everything I do? And I think when somebody really loves what they do and they're an expert at that, they feel like whatever they're doing, they should be an expert at that too. And I think that's can be an okay thing, but I think it can stump you. I think it can stop you. I did this thing once. I had recorded me and my team working out, and they were all black belts. And I showed it to different groups of students as an example of how to practice. So I had this thing that I was trying to do, and it didn't work out the way I thought. But when I showed it to white belts, I kind of asked them what they thought and stuff. And the white belts who don't know anything were like, those are way too hard. We'll never be able to do that. Man, you guys work out hard. Is that what I'm going to have to do? And it was totally like, well, that wasn't the point. And then I showed it to intermediate levels, and they were a little bit more okay with it. And they said, well, some of those movements we don't know yet. So how do we practice that? They had good practical questions. And I showed it to the advanced group. And they were like going, well, my stance isn't correct. My arm is in the wrong position. And they were totally different. So I was thinking, who's your audience? I mean, if you're doing a video for, Facebook or YouTube, is your audience a video photographers that are super good and are going to say that your lighting's off? Or are they people you're trying to help? And the people that comment usually aren't the comment negative, usually aren't the people who you're trying to help, anyways. And there are a
Mhm.
lot of those out there. And I think a lot of people have a fear. Like, here's one for you. Okay. So I remember two comments that got posted eons ago. Okay. A long time ago. And they were both actually correct, but I still remember them. Now I've had countless good things posted, but I remember one. Somebody had put up a photo of me doing a flying kick, and they caught it at the wrong time, and my leg wasn't tucked. And I'm a fanatic on tucking that leg, just to let you know. And one of the comments was, "His leg's not tucked." Now the only person that would know that would be another martial artist at a very high level, a very high level. And I'm like, I'm still to this day, and that was like 25 years ago. I'm still upset about that one photo not being, because it wasn't supposed to be put up, but somebody clicked it. It just doesn't matter. But I still remember that. It's like out of all the things they could have said, there was a lot of good things going on. Why does that one thing? Why does that one thing affect me? And for the person to know that, he's not in my target market. He's a
Yeah.
peer. He's somebody that can do what I can do. So that's
Yeah.
a whole different conversation, right?
It,
So I
it
think people need to be clear on who they're talking to.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that I kind of gathered from your story is that your what you know will help somebody. It'll help somebody. And I think part of who we are helping becomes more clear as we post content, right? It's like, oh, I'm teaching people who are at this level or that level. Like we gather that experience and that expertise, right? That's what makes us an expert in anything is experience. Although we're always learning and practicing. So I loved that you said to know who your audience is, but also it really just highlights the point that you're helping somebody. It might not be the critics, but you're helping somebody. So I want to move on a little bit to some of the benefits of sharing, because Robert so uh, generously helped me put together our outline for our podcast today. Um, because it's so important to mention this, and that is the power of community. And when we're sharing what we know, we're sharing what we do, we're sharing what we love, we're sharing what we stand for, we're sharing what we believe in, that becomes infectious and it helps out other people and it brings together unity. There's so much separation in this country and all over the world that, one of the amazing things that we have the power to do is bring together community and friendships and connection just by sharing what we're sharing. So, what do you want to offer regarding the power of community?
Well, I think when you are giving the information out there, um, you need to be thinking about your community. So I give information all the time in the class, and then I go to give that information, say on a YouTube video or something. Why should that be any different than a group of 30, 40, 50 students coming to me wanting it in person? So, and that helped, if I'm understanding you right, that helped me understand the fact that just because the delivery system is different than live. Okay, so live I don't have a problem with, right? So why should talking to a group of people like what we're doing right now be any different than having a conversation on the mat in front of people or having it on social media? I mean, you have to be a little differently organized. I get that. There's some live dynamics that go on in the thing, but the fact is, you're talking to a group of people that want what you have, and if you understand that and you know that, you're creating that feeling, or you're in that feeling when you're giving. And I think most people that I know that have something worthy to offer have no problem sitting there telling you about it, because you can see them. You ask them, so what do you do or something? They light up, and then you put a camera in front of them, and they're like, oh, because I've been there before too. But once you get the understanding that it is no difference, then you're able to present your ideas and stuff better. I guess the thing is, you have to get out of your head, of it, not even in your head, out of other people's heads that you're making up, your imagination of all these critics sitting there ready to make fun of you, and just do your stuff. Okay, just get out there and do it. And when you're thinking about, like, we're all comfortable with, well, actually, we're all, when we're with a community of people that believe what we believe or want what we want, we're generally more comfortable. But if I circle back around to that story, you had a group of people that were really comfortable with each other who got terrified about doing a 30-second video. And they all did. I watched them. They were all really, really good. And once they did that once, I remember this too. Maybe you can talk a little bit about this, because I heard some of the conversations in your group. how that one lesson uh, totally changed them. I mean, that one thing said, oh, because I heard some of the feedback everybody was giving, and everybody was very in tune to listening to the feedback. They weren't coming at it like I did a video once on I think it was a YouTube channel I had, and I clicked and I very hesitantly started going down toward the comments. I'm just thinking back about it. I just realized it right now. I'm going back down to the comments. And again, the comments that the people had that were a little bit negative were other instructors. It was a total different level. And it was silly. But to the community of the people I was talking to, my message was dead on. The comments were dead on. So you have to realize you honestly have to realize that you have a great message and people do want to hear it, and stop thinking about that one person who's going to say something stupid. In fact, actually, just expect that and welcome that.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. It makes me realize, the 80-20 rule. This is different than the 80% that I mentioned earlier. The 80-20 rule is that 80% of people are going to love your stuff, and then there's always going to be that 20% of people who are going to just be that person, that fortunately will say something negative to drive your video views, but there's always going to be 20% of people that just have negative things to say about what you create, and we can't do anything about that. And there was a quote about that. It says, like, you're going to be hated for it anyway. So no matter what you do, you're going to be, hated for it. So you might as well do it. So I like that. And I also love that you said get out of other people's heads, because sometimes we'll have a bad experience, and then that's what we're always thinking about is going to be the next experience. But really, that's just a small percentage of people that even think negatively towards us like that. That other 80% of people, we actually can and do help. So I love that you said, get out of other people's heads, get out of your own head. It's kind of like, let's just get out of our own way and create to bring that community together, because everything really is coming into an age of community. It used to be a little bit like that. We lost a lot of that, as a society, and then COVID kind of happened, and people are really looking for community again, right? So I feel like being a creator and a someone to offer such communities to other people is so powerful, and that's what they're looking for these days, is that bringing togetherness. So let the naysayers say what they want. They're not the ones out here doing the stuff, right?
Well, let me tell you how much of a waste of time that is. So the one YouTube video I did, I had a lot of great comments on it. I had some students doing some pretty spectacular stuff, and they were just rehearsing training, and one negative comment on there, and it just ticked me off. And so eventually, I couldn't let it go. So I went and looked at this guy's Facebook page. I looked at his stuff, and his comment to me, I could say 100 times over to everything he shared. Every post that he had was the same thing. So he really wasn't even talking to me. I mean,
Yes.
I looked at, oh yeah, it was awful, and I started laughing. It was so bad that I think the guy was delusional. But what a waste of time it was in my life to get upset for a day and then to go hunt this guy down and look at what he was posting and realize it was garbage and that he's not even in my market and he would never even be a student of mine and I wouldn't even take him. I'm thinking, holy cow, why didn't I do that with all the great posts I had? Okay, but no, I was focused, I was in that guy's head
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
made up all this stupid stuff. And that's when I learned it. That's because I was very proud of what I put up. I was proud of the students who were training, and it was just a crazy class. And it got the point across I was trying to get. I wasn't being a technical analysis on every movement, but his comments, when you looked at him and then you went and looked at his page, he could, you could say every one of his posts, you could just literally copy and paste his comment and it would be true, more true than it was for me. So either
Mhm.
he was having a bad day, I don't even know, and I don't care, but that helped me. So that one negative comment that spiraled me for a little while actually really helped me get over most all negative comments. Now I look at it as kind of feedback, and this is what I do. And my guys do the same thing. We look at what, and this took, I know this sounds easy, but this took us a long time to grow up. We look at the comment and we say, is it true? And if the answer is, well, sort of, kind of, then we say, great, we just learned something valuable, let's change it. And if it's not true, we just laugh and we either make a comment on it by re-explaining it if we think it's worth it, or we just move on with our life. And that's really helped. And I've worked with a lot of people, a lot of young instructors and stuff. And it's hard to take criticism when your whole life is what you do. Okay. And then somebody comes by and says, "Oh, you suck." And you're like, "Oh my God, I suck 10 hours
Yeah.
a day then." And then all of a sudden you just go, "Wait a minute. If they're right, then we need to make a change, if that's where we want to go." So I think to first understand that's it's gonna be there. Just understand it and be ready for it, so that you don't jump up and think, "Oh, everybody loves my videos," and then the first comment is, "It sucks." I think you should just realize that you're going to get those because there are people out there that have nothing better to do but to put 1-star reviews on 5-star products.
Yeah.
Just get that in your mind.
It reminds me of the man in the arena,
Oh yeah,
writing.
love
If
that.
you, yeah, like, and it's never the man in the arena that are making those comments, first of all, because they know how hard it is to actually put yourself out there and to build a business and to, declare to yourself and everyone else that you're going to take a stand and do what you believe in and share what you love. But the other thing is you brought a thought to me about the inner critic. And a lot of the times our inner critic is a voice of someone that criticized us to some standard of perfection so that's just a voice in our heads. And we do have to dismiss that. But then the outer critic, those people are usually talking about how they feel about their own stuff. I've realized I've learned that people who are negatively commenting on my stuff when it's not true, that's how they feel about themselves. And when I realize that what they say is how they feel about themselves, it has nothing to do with me. People's behaviors usually has nothing to do with the person that they take it out on. So I just wanted to bring that up. But moving to the next topic, we wanted to talk about the difference between the ego and the soul when it comes to sharing, and how the ego will remind it tries to protect us. So it comes across as a state of fear or something scary, or it tells us to stay small, to stay hidden, to hide ourselves. And when that is necessary is a different conversation that we're not going to go into today, because we want to talk about the opposite, which is sharing what we learned, share what we know, and stepping into a space of love and offering instead of fear. What do you want to offer regarding the ego versus soul and any capacity?
I think that and that's a really good way to look at things, because I think being conscious of this and understanding it a little bit helps you wade through it. I can think back times, like I said, where I didn't do good things because of that inner critic, but I was so excited about it. So you have the ego and the soul, and then they're both used. If you understand they're there and you can hear the voices, you can decide which ones you want to respond to. And when I finally kind of got that thought, the soul part of it is the shining, bright positivity I'm sharing with the world. The world wants to hear what I have to say. And even if they don't, I'm going to share it anyways. The ego part is saying, "Well, you might get hurt. Okay. That's not good enough. Somebody else does it better." And sometimes when you can tame that dragon, you can listen to what it says, and then you can say, "You're right. I'm going to fix that part." If you utilize it as a tool, it starts to work for you. But if you don't, it totally works against you, because if you don't know what's going on, if you don't know that voice is happening and it's happening on a subconscious level, it's going to sabotage you, and you're never going to know why, and you're going to blame yourself, and it's going to go down, 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 down. Having an understanding of what it's doing and why it's doing it, you can kind of give it a mission. At least this is how I do it. I was like, I know I have an inner critic, and I've had one for as long as I remember having one. So now I give it jobs, right? And I realize that it's an opinion, and it's an opinion that's made up of nowhere. I don't even know where it comes from. I mean, how can you be? It's just crazy, right? But it has a negative tone. And that's how I know it's talking. Well, that that's a kind, your lighting is off on that. People can't see your eyes. Like, what? Hold on. Maybe you're right. Maybe I should fix that on the next one. Thank you for sharing. But I know it because I can hear it. And it always, and this is how you know it's happening. It always is preventing you from moving ahead. It always has something else in your path, right? It has, oh, that's great, but why don't you add an extra step? Even when it's a positive way. Wow, that's such good information, but really you should talk about, and then boom, you stop. So
Mhm.
once you can recognize that and you can hear it, and we can go back down to that, 80%, 80, am I covering the 80%? I am. Okay. Thank you for sharing. You don't want to completely ignore it or we'll find another way to get in your way, but you want to acknowledge it. And this is what I do, acknowledge it and say, yeah, I guess it could be better, but for what I'm trying to do, this is good. This is good enough. And I think when people understand that and they can hear themselves do it, they can start to get past it and start sharing what's in their heart, which is what we want. All of us want to know, what somebody has to offer. We want to know what who they are, what they are. We don't need that inner critic getting in the way of great information.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that, there is that allowance of good enough, like allowing something to be good enough, because if it's good enough and we put it out there and we're like, okay, it's good enough, I put it out there, like we have no idea how many people that just helped. Right. So our good enough is someone else's moment of transformation, which is really amazing. But we can't even begin to offer that if we're not creating because we're in a state of this isn't good enough. I mean, I have posted things and felt like it wasn't good enough, and I still posted it and it still had a positive outcome. So, the other thing I wanted to talk about fear is that I was terrified when I first, came out of the cave, I say, and started putting myself out there. It was very scary for me, and actually, almost everything for a while was scary for me. But I started to realize that that fear was more like a compass as to um, how I can grow and what I can do. So I've used it now as a almost like a direction. So I look now, I'm like, what am I afraid of? What is scary to me? And then I go do that. I love the phrase, don't let I don't know where this came from or if I'm just making it up, but don't let fear hold you back. Just ride it instead. Ride the fear, go that way, because that is the way that you're going to grow and that you're going to help other people. So we actually can use fear in a positive way, and we can use fear knowing that we're using it to share love, if that makes sense. Um, so the next thing I want to talk about is just the impact of sharing what we know, because knowledge not shared, I heard, is useless. And I do agree with that, because if we're retaining it for ourselves, sure, we've learned from it, but when we're not sharing what we know with other people and offering them a solution or offering them our experience for them to learn and grow, then what is it for, right? Like I can only imagine if someone did not pass down the martial arts, right? If they just kept it for themselves, it would have just ended with them. And I feel like so much of our purpose is to have these lessons continue on to help other people long after us, right?
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty valid point. In most martial arts schools and most martial arts traditions, we pay a high level of respect to people we've never even met because they pass down their knowledge. I mean, we start the class with a method of saying thank you to the people that are long past dead, and we end the class saying thank you. And if they never would have shared, what do we have? What do we have as a nation? What do we have as a people? So sharing, I think, is important. But I also want to think that for some people, when they have something very that they've learned, like a lesson that's valuable for people, since they've already learned it, they devalue that sometimes. They think like I have a drill that I do, right? It already got me the skill that I needed. I stop doing the drill. I move on. And then I just assume everybody else has the same skill and the drill is stupid. And then they ask me, well, how did you get good with that? I said, well, I just do this. Well, why don't we do that? I'm going, oh, because you don't know it. Maybe I should share it with you. So I think that's really super, super important to also for people to understand that some of the things that they think are worthless is because they have already solved a problem in their own life, and they will solve problems in other people's lives too. And you have to go back to before you had that solution. Who were you, and how much of an impact did it make on you? Well, great. Don't keep it to yourself. Give it to us so that we can make an impact on our life too.
Yeah, I love that. And it made me think about, so as teachers, if you have any type of teacher mentality in you, which you and I both do, then we know that when we are teaching something we are learning it a lot faster and in a lot deeper way than just learning it. So once we master something, we almost get bored with it, and then we become like learning machines, right? I think I've used the addiction to learning before, because we want to learn, but then once we learn something, it's like, oh, I did that, and then we really do forget how beneficial and important those lessons can be and are for other people who are desperately trying to learn something, and maybe they don't have that teacher mentality, or maybe their learning is a little bit different than ours, right? So I feel like those of us that entertain that addiction to learning and love to teach what we're learning and do master things and move on to the next one, I feel like we have a responsibility to say, hey, these are the things I've learned. I mean, why else would we be so skilled with learning things the way that we do if we don't share them, right? So there's a lot of impact when it comes to just sharing what you know that you may look at as simple or easy. It's something that nobody else, there's other people that don't know how to apply that. So you have a gift. That's just one way of looking at some of the gifts that you can offer. So Robert, let's talk about some of the ways that we can begin to practice putting ourselves out there, whether um, it's joining a group. So, I do have a couple groups. We have a couple groups available where you can overcome some of these challenges if you go to my website. But I want to give you some tangible stuff, because one thing that Robert and I both learned is that it takes practice, right? It's not something that you wake up one day and you're an expert at recording videos and posting them online, right? It for me,
I
I remember
wish.
when the camera was first on me, I was hiding behind a curtain and Robert had the camera in his hand, and I was like bright red in the face and like, what am I couldn't even talk. So there is that repetitive practice in anything that we want to get good at.
Yeah, I still have that video. I remember that. I was like, geez, you're so good without the camera. Well, my story is the same thing. I did, a lot of videos for the martial art courses and stuff. And the first belt level took me 2 months to get through 10 videos. And they're 2-minute videos. It took me forever. The second belt took me half the time. The third belt, which is 5 times as much information, took me, I think I did it in an hour and a half, edited it and everything. And they're way better than anything I did before. And who are we to think about this? Who are we to think that we shouldn't practice, that we don't have a right to practice, that we have to get perfect before we put the message out there? I think if students of martial arts had that mentality, they would never train, they would never practice. I recall this real shortly. I recall this one young lady I was training 30 years ago, and she just wouldn't do some of the things. I said, "Why aren't you doing this?" I said, "You've got to practice." And she goes, "But I don't want to do it wrong." And I sat there, and she's a white belt. She does everything wrong. Her belt was tied wrong. Her uniform was inside out. And I was sitting there looking at it, and I'm saying, "You are not practicing because you're afraid of doing it wrong." That is in the martial arts how we get good, is by doing it wrong 1,000 times until we figure it out. So if we take and I'm just as guilty as her. Okay. So I'm pointing to that because I was like flabbergasted. I was going, geez, you step on the mat wrong. That's why you're here. But when I first started doing the videos, same thing. What are people going to say about me? So I don't do anything because I'm afraid of doing it wrong, which I don't even know where
Yeah,
that
we have that a
stuff
bit
comes from.
backwards. Yeah, we have
We
that a
have
bit
it completely
backwards.
backwards,
Yeah.
completely. So the one thing, here's a tangible tip that I did, is that I wanted to get some short videos out. And so I went through the whole thing. Oh my gosh, what are people gonna? I went through the whole thing, and I still realized it's been a week. I haven't gotten one video out, and I got 20 reasons why I shouldn't. And then another week went by, and I had 40 reasons. So I said, okay, enough. and I just started videotaping myself. Um, and when I first did it, I did it with an intent to send out a good message, and I messed up everything. Finally, I realized this isn't working. I'm getting worse, and I said I'm just going to do some videos that I'm not going to post, and then they were flawless. Okay, they just
Yeah.
I only had one take, so I caught on really quick. I said, wait a minute, when there is no pressure on me, I'm getting pretty good. When there's pressure on me, I crack up. So I made a goal to myself, or a challenge, that I was going to do 5 videos, 1 or 2 minutes long a day, that had nothing that I was never going to post. And I was going to do it until I felt comfortable being on camera. It took 3 days. And I said, this is stupid. I'm going to start posting some of the stuff. This is pretty good stuff. And then all of a sudden, I'm not perfect at it, but now you pull a camera out and put it on me. I'm just going to do my best. And if it doesn't work, I'll say retake. So somebody could do it tangible and get it. Is just pull your phone out and start recording little blurbs. You can delete it
Yeah.
later. Nobody's going to
Yeah.
see this stuff, but you get very comfortable pretty fast.
Yeah. I like that.
That
So, oh, go ahead.
No, I just saying that's what I did, and I was thinking about when you first did uh, your first training videos too. Um, we just deleted and we just kept going, and then pretty soon it was business as usual. Is the cameras ready? You say, is the lighting ready? Okay, hit action, play, and then you just go. There was no more of that, but it's practice.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it, some of the things that you do, me and you have done this. Okay, we've done 5 or 10 takes because we made mistakes, and then we go back to edit them, and the very first one's the best one.
Yes,
You
that
remember
happens to me
those?
all the time.
Yeah, the very first one, the one that you thought was horrible, ends up being perfect. So, relax a little bit, people.
Yeah. So yeah. So exactly. I agree. So I've got a list now. So grab a pen and we're going to go over some of the tips that you can tap into, see what feels good to you so that you can begin to put your gifts out there and share with the world. So number one is repetitive practice. Remember that anything that we want to get good at, we have to practice. It's not the other way around. We don't get good at it and then practice. The practice is what makes us good at it. So that's important. Number two is record without intention to post. I love Robert's tip about not really holding that much weight onto the video because really you just want to practice recording at first if it's something new to you. So just have fun with it and keep them in your private stash if you want. You don't have to do anything with it. It's once we post or attach that intention that we get really nervous in the beginning, at least. Number three, challenge yourself to post daily. So post something about your life or record about your life if you're not quite ready to post anything, just record about your life. But if you want to take it to the next level, then definitely post every day. Give yourself a 7-day challenge to post every day. Number four is to allow it to be good enough. I love the 80% rule. One thing that I've learned that has turned into is as long as I feel like it's in alignment with me and that I feel like myself, then it's good enough. So I post. Number five is to act in spite of the fear. So we can't let fear control us. We want to make sure that we are using fear in a positive way. And that for me means to follow the fear because it will show you how you can grow. So if you're afraid of something, it's showing you very blatantly, very honestly, very clearly the next action step for you. It's not a stuckness, it's not a holding you back. It's actually showing you where you can go. So take action and then stay in the feeling of love as well, because it will, obviously, that's what you're sharing for, is because of your love for humanity and helping other people. Um, I think I'm on 6 now, is to set visibility goals for yourself. So I always say do something new. So if it's something that you've done and you've mastered, that's easy, right? But if you really want to write a blog post or you really want to write an article or host a workshop or give a talk, then challenge yourself to do something new. And if it's a little scary, that's a good sign. Um, and allow the naysayers too, because they're going to be there. And if we use the negative comments and that negativity in a positive way, then they will drive our views. And that's what I've learned is, I wait for negative comments because it actually just creates more engagement on posts. So the naysayers actually help us out if we use it in a positive way. Number seven is to support or celebrate your efforts, big or small. So celebrate you, celebrate what you're doing. We're all at our own stages and places, so celebrate what you're doing. And number eight is to have a challenge buddy. So if you need somebody, Robert and I do really well with this. We oftentimes will challenge each other to do something, and if you have a challenge buddy that says, "Hey, let's do this together," it can make it a lot easier, especially in the beginning. And then lastly, what I can come up with today is to join a community. Specifically a community that's assisting you with, stepping into this really powerful version of yourself so that you have the support necessary, um, and the unity of friends and positive energy to help you through this because we're all human beings, right? So these things come up. And when we have a community to support us, we can quickly remember to not let anything hold us back. Those are my tips. Anything else, Robert, that you want to add as we conclude today's
Yeah, I
episode?
want to, yeah, I want to highlight, and, yeah, overemphasize the group thing, because it goes along with, like you said, a challenge buddy, but you can also borrow other people's beliefs, and they can see a little more clearly than you can sometimes. So when you're in a group of people that are like-minded and they want you to be successful, you can borrow their belief in you to get past that. So I always tell my instructors when they have new students and stuff, I always say, because we have the experience, we have been where they have been, and we know where they're going. And I always say that, you know what, in the beginning, you're going to believe in your student more than they believe in themselves. They're going to say things like, oh, you're just saying that because I'm your student. And you're going to have to accept that. And you're going to say, no, I know where you're going and I believe in you. And in the meantime, since you don't believe in yourself, remember, I believe in you more than you believe in yourself until you believe in yourself. And with a group dynamic, joining a group, that's really easy to do if it's the right group, because people will want you to be successful. They'll tell you the things not that you want to hear, that you need to hear. And you're not going to get that through randomness very well anyways. So I'll just overemphasize joining a group of people that are like-minded, that are going or have been where you're at, is really good, because if you don't believe in yourself as much as you should, you can borrow that belief from other people if they're good people and they have your best interests at heart.
Yeah. And it's almost like an energy that carries you through to the next version of you and carries you through a lot of those dense energies. So I love that. I love that. And then, yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Robert. Thank you. And stay tuned for the next episode. We'll see you later.
Bye, everyone.